Hi everyone and welcome back. And in this video, we are going to create a production ready microservice baseline. So in the last video, we just talked about Nest CLI, like the basic setup. Now in this video, we are going to create a baseline template for the microservice. So once we have the baseline template, our baseline template milta hai, so then you can create other services by just creating the basic structure of that service. तो बेसलाइन करने के लिए वी नीड ऑल दीज टूलिंग्स के अंदर आते हैं लाइक हस्की, कमिट लिंट स्टेज, डॉकर सेटअप, टेस्ट कॉन्फ़िगरेशन यूजिंग जेस्ट, deployment setup through the GitLab CI, or other different set of configurations. So we are going to talk about them one by one. So first we will talk about ESLint and Prettier. Okay, we will just go around like what is the ESLint RC, how to set up a Prettier with ESLint, and how to add the Prettier scripts in the npm scripts. Then we will do the Docker setup. I mean, we need a Docker containers to run the application. Like in further videos, you will be using either Postgres, MySQL. So you need a Docker container to use that. So we will set up a Docker file and a Docker compose for the Postgres and Node.js containers. And in step 3, you need Husky and commit lint. Husky is actually used to create hooks. So when you add a commit, when you push the code to remote repository, you should be able to run some prerequisites task like lint, build, prettier task, and you should follow some commit convention. That is what commit lint do. And the fourth step, we are going to talk about jest configuration, like, okay, jest for configuration for unit testing, jest configuration for end-to-end testing, and how to create a test environment. So when you are writing a end-to-end test and you wanted to segregate a test environment, how can you do that using jest configuration? And last, we will be talking about the miscellaneous configurations like ORM config, deployment configurations, GitLab CI, or the GitHub actions, and any other required configurations which you want to put in your code base. Okay, so the first we are talking about code organization, because that is very important, how we organize our folder structure and all in our application. So we are writing a NestJS application. So how we can organize the folders in the best possible way. So in the last video, I have shown you the basic folder structure. Now, if you can see here in the source folder, you can have auth, core, shared, user, right? What else can you add on top of that? So I mean, when you are building a large scale application, what kind of a template which you can follow? So I will try to just create a folders here. Like I can have a database that you can have inside a source. You can create a shared core folder, library folder for managing all the libraries inside it, utility. So what are these modules are? When you are building a large application, it's not like everything you will put inside a domain, inside a user module. User module will have a user controller, user service. Similarly, all the database stuff, put it in the database. All the core interceptor, core middleware, like common middleware, interceptors, pipes, filter, जो भी building blocks है common, उनको आप core folder में add कर दो. And then inside authentication, maybe auth strategy, auth middleware, you can put inside lib. Lib is actually like a library, right? तो इसके अंदर आप ऐड कर सकते हो AWS S3 जो भी एक्सटर्नल इंटीग्रेशन आपके, दैट यू कैन पुट इनसाइड अ लिब फोल्डर. शेयर्ड फोल्डर का मतलब है कि ऑल योर शेयर्ड मॉड्यूल्स विच आर कॉमन अक्रॉस, which can be used across any other module. So shared module can be coming here. Utility helpers you can add. So this is kind of a structure you can follow. Here what I'm doing is, let's say domain. Inside domain you can have all your repository domain like user, अकाउंट, प्रोफाइल. तो मोस्टली मतलब मैं इस तरह का फोल्डर स्ट्रक्चर यूज़ करता हूँ. डोमेन के अंदर मेरी ऑल रिपोजिटरीज आती है. अब डोमेन के अंदर जैसे मान लो APIs, मेनली द APIs कम्स अंडर डोमेन. अब इसके अंदर कोर्स है, अकाउंट है, तो अकाउंट कंट्रोलर, अकाउंट सर्विस, कोर्स कंट्रोलर, कोर्स सर्विस, बुक कंट्रोलर, बुक सर्विस, बुक मॉड्यूल, ये सब उसके अंदर जाता है. एंड आई ऑलवेज हैव डोमेन मॉड्यूल एज अ रूट मॉड्यूल. अब इसमें डोमेन मॉड्यूल रूट मॉड्यूल हो गया. ऑल द मॉड्यूल्स विल बी इंपोर्टेड इन द डोमेन मॉड्यूल. और डोमेन मॉड्यूल में इंपोर्ट करूँगा ऐप मॉड्यूल के अंदर, बिकॉज वी डिस्कस्ड दैट देयर विल बी वन रूट मॉड्यूल फॉर द होल NestJS application. So that we are say following the same strategy here. Here domain module, app module will have domain module definition added. Like here, this is the domain module. You can copy and paste and try to rename it. अब इस डोमेन मॉड्यूल में यू विल ऐड अ यूजर मॉड्यूल, इंपोर्ट यूजर मॉड्यूल, कोर्स मॉड्यूल, बुक मॉड्यूल, अकाउंट मॉड्यूल. Now you got a domain module, you import the domain module inside app module. So this way you can have a root module, sub module, and then feature modules. Root module is app module, sub module is a domain module, and all the feature module like user module, course module, book module becomes your feature module. अब उनके respective में आप उनके अंदर ही ऐड करोगे controller, services, all these things. अब core folder के अंदर आ गए आपके अंदर middleware, interfaces, types, filters, वैलिडेशन पाइप्स, कुछ भी जो कॉमन थिंग्स है ना, गार्ड हो गए, मिडलवेयर हो गया, इंटरफेसेस हो गए, कोर थिंग्स, कोर एस्पेक्ट है जो नेस्ट जेएस के, वो सारे इसके अंदर हम ऐड कर देंगे. ओके, तो ये हमारा बेसिक फोल्डर स्ट्रक्चर इस तरह से हम फॉलो करेंगे. आई मीन यू कैन डिज़ाइन बेस्ड ऑन योर कंफर्ट, बट दिस इज हाउ इट कैन बी स्केलेबल. लिब के अंदर और योर एक्सटर्नल इंटरफेस, डोमेन के अंदर योर एपीआईज, डेटाबेस के अंदर यू कैन ऐड एंटिटीज, माइग्रेशंस एंड ऑल. Authentication के अंदर auth strategy, auth guards, I mean something related to authentication you can add there. Like this way you can add a user DAO service. I mean in every folder you will have these 4 or 5 things common. In nest.js, I mean I'm going to follow this folder structure everywhere. Inside a user folder, which is inside a domain, I will have a controller, DAO service, DTO, module, and what else? A simple service. कंट्रोलर हो गया, सर्विस हो गई, मॉड्यूल हो गया, एंटिटी विच रिप्रेजेंट्स अ डेटाबेस, डाउ सर्विस विच रिप्रेजेंट्स योर डेटाबेस लेयर. आई मीन हाउ टू इंटरफेस विद द डेटाबेस. यूजर कंट्रोलर इज योर राउटर. फिर इसके अंदर इंटरफेस आ जाएगा या आपका डीटीओ आ जाएगा. डीटीओ इज नथिंग बट यू विल अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज डीटीओ. बट वैलिडेशन पाइप्स, ये आपका रिक्वेस्ट रेस्पॉन्स कैसे वैलिडेट करना आपको. So next important thing we are talking about the pre-tier and ESLint. I mean I saw that in the CLI app which we have generated. Pre-tier ESLint is kind of already set up, and with the pre-tier also. So I just added a pre-tier RC or pre-tier ignore, और इसके अंदर क्या करना है, बस simple setup कर देना है. So here we have added a pre-tier and pre-tier RC, and pre-tier ignore is also there. I mean what folders we don't want to track, that we can add inside a pre-tier ignore. So if you see the package JSON, we already have almost all the things. You already have a ESLint parser, ESLint config prettier plugin भी है हमारे पास. prettier I just added only the prettier module. I think this was already there when I installed it. You just need to add this prettier right format file भी है. I just added a lint is already there with the when you generate a code using nest CLI, ESLint is kind of already set up. You can just add a prettier or prettier ignore file if you want, but this is kind of already set up. Here we see the lint. So npm run lint, npm run format. I added 2 more script, prettier and prettier right. So prettier will check okay if the code is following the convention, or prettier right will fix the code when you want to do it. So we can just run the prettier. So if there are 8 files which has some issues, right? So we can just do the prettier right and it will fix the 8 files. When I'm running npm run prettier, everything is fine now. Then there is a ESLint. So this is the ESLint and prettier we are talking about. So this is our ESLint rc.js file. I mean, this is nothing complex. It contains the rules and the plugins and what all it is extending. So these rules will tell us on what particular things it will be showing error or the warning. Currently, all these 4 rules are off. This is the ESLint ignore. I don't want to run ESLint on these set of files. This is what it tells us. And we can just run only npm run lint, and that should able to lint our files. All these different files I have added in this project. So now we are going to talk about Docker and Docker Compose. Our lint really works. So this is the setup we have done. Now in the Docker and Docker Compose, first of all, why we need it for the local development. But एक baseline template बना रहे हैं तो I think हमें Docker setup भी कर लेना चाहिए. So you can, when you copy and paste it in on another project, you can spin up your Postgres container or database connections वगैरह सब easy हो जाएगा. You can have a Postgres, MongoDB or MySQL. I will try to provide all the examples, but you can just set up a Docker and Docker Compose. You don't need to create a container for the Node.js, because what we can do is Node.js हम local पे run करते हैं और we just need a container for the database, either a MySQL, Postgres or MongoDB. हम Node.js को locally run करेंगे और Node.js will connect to the database which is inside a container. तो ये सब simple Docker का setup हम कर सकते हैं. What we need to do is we just need to create a simple Docker file and Docker compose file and all those things. So let's try to add them here. So I have added 3 files here. If you see Docker compose, Docker file and Docker compose override. So you might get confused, what is this Docker compose override and Docker compose file? So क्या होता है, Docker compose तो is like a minimum configuration we can put inside Docker compose. Override is just extending more information on top of what do we have in the Docker compose file. बाकी Docker file is not useful here because we are not going to run node.js in Docker container. तो ये हमारे database test names और environment variables है, और when you run Docker compose up, we should be able to spin up the container. अभी Docker util एक special folder I have added because what I want, I mean I have a separate video of how we can dockerize simple nest.js application, but उतना डिटेल में नहीं जाना अभी. हमें केवल डॉकर यूटिल्स ऐड करना है. डॉकर यूटिल्स का मतलब क्या होता है कि जब हम इसको बूटस्ट्रैप करेंगे डॉकर कंपोज अप को, देन वी ऑल्सो वांट टू हैव अ डेटाबेस ऑलरेडी क्रिएटेड इन पोस्टग्रेस और माईस्क्वल. तो उसके लिए एक स्पेशल स्क्रिप्ट लिखी है इसके अंदर मैंने. बाकी इट इज जस्ट नथिंग बट डॉकर फाइल एंड डॉकर कंपोज फाइल. तो व्हेन यू डू डॉकर कंपोज अप, आई विल हैव अ डेटाबेस एंड कंटेनर अप एंड रनिंग. ये है मेरी डॉकर कंपोज फाइल. इसमें ज़्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं है. पोस्टग्रेस इमेज का नाम पोस्टग्रेस है. रीस्टार्ट ऑलवेज अनलेस स्टॉप. और डॉकर कंपोज ओवरराइड में पोस्टग्रेस कंटेनर की सम एक्सटेंडेड इन्फॉर्मेशन है कि भाई एनवायरनमेंट में इस जब पोस्टग्रेस कंटेनर बन जाएगा तो डेटाबेस कनेक्ट करने के लिए मुझे यूजर नेम क्या चाहिए, पासवर्ड क्या चाहिए, होस्ट और कंटेनर पोर्ट क्या है, वॉल्यूम मैपिंग क्या है, बेसिक चीज़ें. इफ़ यू डोंट इवन नो, स्किप दैट. So this is how you need to have a Docker compose and Docker compose override. So when you do Docker compose up, you should be able to have container running. So here I'm doing Docker compose up. That should be able to create a container. And if you see the logs, it is creating database for me. Test API and Test API testing. These are two databases which I have specified at line number 7. देखो इस environment variable मैंने specify किया कि भाई मुझे 2 database चाहिए. Rest all the creation of database is happening through this special script inside a Docker utils. That is just overriding a Docker entry point. Okay, तो ऐसे हम we can achieve the containers. Next thing we are talking about is commit lint and commit gen. This we are going to plug in with the Husky tool. I mean we have a Husky. Husky is actually add hooks, and we can just have this commit lint and commit gen to enforce the constraint for the commit configuration. So हमें husky install किया dev npm install -- save husky, or I will just add a package script here. Actually I installed it in the wrong folder. I need to go inside first auth microservice. Now I have installed it in the right directory, and then you do the npm run prepare. So I have added a prepare script which is saying husky install. So when you hit this, it will actually populate this folder .husky for you with lots of hooks, but we don't need all of those. So what I will do is I will just try to get rid of this Husky folder, and I will just try to keep only few hooks which I really needed. So I installed a Husky, and then I will add a commit lint CLI or commit config convention. These are the 2 modules which I have. And then here I have a commit gen, commit lint CLI. So what commit lint is doing, we can actually pair up commit lint with the Husky tool so that it can enforce us the constraint. So this is the configuration which you need to do. Here you see in the commit gen, I'm passing the path. Okay, this is the configuration you need to add for commit gen. And this is the commit lint commit messages. I mean, this is enforcing us to write a clean commit messages when you are pushing the code, and you can add some hooks with Husky. So Husky जब Husky से run करोगे तो we can enforce some rule. So what you need to do is you just need a commit lint config.js file which we can add here in this microservice folder. Config.js इसके अंदर we are just extending commit lint, and that is there in the configuration also here. I mean basic sample configuration में ये देखो ये extend किया हुआ है, same we are extending. I mean these are not like some rocket science, it's just only the basic setup, and this is how we need to do. अब ये config ऐसे बनाना तो बनाना है. There is no logic inside it. It's just saying कि when you run the commit lint at runtime, it needs to extend a basic convention which it is getting from this file. So we already have installed all these modules, commit lint CLI, commit gen, and now you can just see these hooks. So we are We are looking into these three hooks only: commit, pre-commit, commit message and prepare commit message. Pre-commit का मतलब है कि जब आप commit ready कर रहे हो तो तुम्हें lint run करना है, prettier run करना है, ESLint run करना है. So before you commit, you need to make sure your code is always properly format हो चुका है. Commit lint, I mean prettier से कोई files में issues नहीं है, all are formatted properly, ESLint is not complaining. That is pre-commit. So for that we are running npm run lint and npm run prettier. Then there is another hook is commit message and prepare commit message. For all these things we are using commit lint, right? So what we will do is git status, and let's see if I can add the files git status git add and see if this commit lint is really working. Okay, I think this is not working right now. I'm able to pass the empty commit and nothing is happening. So I will just do npm run prepare again, I think, and that should be able to bootstrap the Husky. So here what I did is npm run prepare. So that reinitialized the Husky hook, because sometimes Husky doesn't work in the first phase. So you need to do npm run prepare again, which do Husky install. And now if I try to do commits again, git add, git status and git commit, then it should be able to run the hooks. Now I add a git commit message. And let's see, there are some warnings, deprecated. It is able to identify the modules correctly, but let's remove these lines, okay? Because it is complaining, we don't need these lines. So just get rid of them. And then we will do the again git commit and see if it works without any issues. So now it is clean, right? If you see, when I'm trying to run git commit initial commit, everything is perfectly fine. It is able to do the git commit hooks, and then it is running the commit lint to enforce the commit conventions. Okay, so that is commit lint with the Husky. It is so this is a pre-commit and commit message and prepare commit message. These three hooks we have, and now I think the structure looks clean. We can add your commit message and commit message description, and same you can check in the git log. This is logged properly, right? So it is enforcing us the following proper convention. So we have covered a Husky, git hooks, and next thing is we are going to talk about jest config and test setup. Like we can also in microservice or in the application, we also write unit tests and end-to-end test. Unit test in using simple like in the NestJS. You can also write unit tests and end-to-end test for testing the APIs. So you don't need to install any additional library. Jest configuration is already there. You can just remove it from here and create a separate jest config file. And for the unit tests, you can have a jest config, or end-to-end test cases के लिए आप e2e jest e2e.config.js. because these two files you need, just config.js or just config e2e.js. क्या होता है कि sometimes the configuration is different. For unit test, we will look for .spec.ts file. For integration test, E2E test, you will look for .e2e.spec.ts. So two different files, and this is important file is setup environments.js inside a test folder. Because what happens कि हमें test run करना है, so we need to hit test database. तो उसके लिए हमें different environments also we can populate. So we can have a like env file होती है एक project के अंदर to populate the environment variables. Similarly, we can have a .env.test file that will point to the test environment, test database URL, test configuration, test port, Node.js port, and all these things. And I'm able to run npm run test. And this is just running the simple unit tests for me. This is looking for .js.ts file using tsjest and looking for .spec.ts file. End-to-end test is looking for e2e spec.ts, or build configuration for these tests are test config e2e.json. Why I'm saying it? We have three different type of build files: tsconfig, tsconfig.e, e2e, tsconfig.build. Now if you look into these files, tsconfig e2e and tsconfig build, in tsconfig build we need target is to build the source folder. So we have to exclude the test, dist or spec files. When we are talking about e2e configuration, what is our target is? Our target is to remove I think in the E2E, in E2E we are including the test folder also, because here in the E2E files, we are going to run the tests. So it's better we should build them first, right? So we are using tsconfig E2E, and in normal build, we just exclude all different type of test cases, node modules, and dist folder. So this is how you can set up a basic test setup. And this is my tsconfig E2E. Here I'm just excluding only node modules and the build folder. Rest all is everything there. Okay, and just config basic setup. Next is NVMRC, like how we can force all the users to use the same module, same node version. What happens, let's say I'm running the same project with node 14, somebody is using node 18, somebody is using node 20. I mean, we need to think about compatibility. Node 9 is very much compatible with the 16.x and greater. You can't use the 14.5, right? So how we can enforce that rule inside our package JSON? So for that, we can just use this package JSON, and here inside this we can just use fbjs script. That's actually a package which you need to add as a dependency. So this, there it is. Here I need to add this check engines, which is using this fbjs script. This is actually module which you need to add in the dependencies, and this is the engine and dev engine. These two definitions you need to add, and what those are doing, those will validate. Yeah, when you are doing a building, when you are building or starting the application, it will check what is your current version and what is the version mentioned in package JSON. Is it compatible? Let's say if you are using some older version, no, I won't allow you to run the application. So those kind of constraints you can add here. So here I can add a pre-build step. Okay, before building this, I need to check these things like what is your Node.js version. So I added a just a npm script hook, and I will be running npm run check engine and then npm run build. Right. So when you are doing build, it will do the engine check. Okay, your current version is not satisfying, I won't let you build this project. Your current version is 14.5 and you are, I mean, your current node version is 14.5, but this application can run with 18.x or 20. I need to satisfy that condition. Either I can update my node version and can run the build. So that is just an additional thing, app.js script. That's actually the module name. You can check in the code. I will push it on the GitHub. Now I move to the 18.x and I'm able to build my project, right? So this is like, okay, specifying the appropriate set of Node.js versions. npm will also be, I think, 9.x and greater. You need to update it. So these are the things which you can add to baseline your microservices. Alawa, you can add GitLab CI or GitHub folder for adding the GitHub actions, GitLab CI, NVMRC, or rest is your deployment, like you're deploying to Vercel, to Lambda or EC2, or all these CI/CD configurations will be there. You can also have an infra folder, document docs folder, infra folder, format your readme properly, or you can also export your collections, whatever the APIs are doing, and put that inside an API spec folder. Okay, that will also do the nice job for anyone who is using that project. So these are all the things which you need to have in your baseline project.